Good afternoon. This is Rob Bell, and the video you're going to be watching is actually my first. It's part of what I'm calling Getting the Record Straight. And I want to, first of all, say hello to everyone who's going to take some time to look at this and really to thank so many people who have helped me over the past year or two in terms of getting started to do this. Um, Getting the record straight is going to be a video podcast, if you will, that I'll be doing on a weekly basis, and there'll be two parts to it. The first part will be where I'll be going over issues that deal with art and music. Some of you who know me know that I'm an avid music fan, and in fact have a playlist on YouTube that I put out twice a week, which I call Black Rock and Soul. And so my art and music session discussion that's going to be here on Getting the Record Straight is going to be called Black Rock and Soul. So one segment will be about that, and then I'll also put up a segment that'll deal with politics and current events. And again, people who know me, I think, have a sense of what I'm about there. I oftentimes have been called by friends a radical, but if I am a radical, it's a practical radical. I just believe very strongly that there's things that need to get done, particularly in the black community and African American communities around the country and here in Philadelphia, which, by the way, is where this show is coming from, Philadelphia. But so much that needs to be done, and the half measures that we take oftentimes just don't measure up. And I've been involved in activism and working for government organizations for 35 years or so, off and on. And it just pains me to see that a lot of the issues that we've been dealing with for decades are still around, and the improvement has been negligible at best. Some things just seem to be getting worse. So that's what happened. That's what kind of spawned and motivated me to do what I'm going to be doing. Again, like I said, there'll be two segments that I'll do every week. One on music and art, which we'll call Black Rock and Soul. The other on politics and current events, which I'm going to entitle Truth to Power. And all of this is under the umbrella of Getting the Record Straight. You'll be able to get to this channel through Facebook. I have a Facebook page, Getting the Record Straight. You can just go there and click on the top post. Will always be able to link you right here to YouTube, to this YouTube channel. And also, those of you who've been following and listening, and I hope you continue to do so, to the Black Rock and Soul YouTube video playlist. The website, which is www.blackrockandsoul. There's also a button there which will bring you here to this channel. I'm not going to do a full show today. This is really pretty much my maiden voyage. This is an introduction to what I'll be doing. But this one will be, kind of short. But I wanted to do a couple of things to just initially. One is to give you a little bit of background. Who is this guy? Why is he, who does he think he is? Getting up on this platform and talking trash. But I'm a Philadelphian, born and raised here. Raised my family here, and went to public school for a little while here, and then went to a prep school, a private school, where I graduated from, and then went to Temple. I have both an undergraduate and graduate degree from Temple, undergrad in business and a graduate degree in public administration. And am I kicking this thing? You have to forgive me. I'm one of these older folks who's a little bit challenged on the technology end. So still trying to get the kinks out and work through how all this stuff goes. But anyway, have a master's in public administration and have done a lot of work in government programs and particularly in youth programs here in Philly. I used to run all of the youth programs for the Philadelphia Housing Authority. I worked for years with the YMCA's of Philly. So I kind of bring a perspective, I think, and actually designed a training program with LaSalle's nonprofit management school. It's not a school; it's actually courses. Excuse me, and called the Business of Helping People. This was back in the late '90s. Not enough people signed up for the workshop, but nonetheless, it was. I did put some time into researching the training, and from that, in my experience, I think I bring an interesting perspective, a distinctive perspective in terms of how we do programs in urban areas and with our kids and our young adults and the many, many problems that we face. And again, an issue that I'm concerned about is why we haven't moved and gotten past and made progress on some of these maladies, if you will, that face us as a collective, as communities, housing, and crime, and that kind of thing. And part of that issue of why we haven't, I think, seen as much improvement will come out, I think, as I do some of these videos with regard to how we administer, how we plan and programs. Anyway, I'll go into that a lot more, and it'll be the subject matter of several videos that I do when I'm talking about truth to power. I think if we did half of what we should do with the program dollars, with the dollars that come to us, especially on a local level where we have more control, if you will, and more of a voice in city government. But if we were better at administering and carrying out some of the programs and designing programs that make some sense, we'd be further along. So that's one. But anyway, so this local kind of approach, as well as the national and international issues that we face as a people and as a people in this country, when I do the Truth to Power segment, I will be, giving my 2 cents, which is about as much as it's worth. But nonetheless, giving my 2 cents on that. And of course, it couldn't be a more interesting time with this election, what's taking place right now. Again, I'm not going to go into that in any particular depth today, but probably next week. I plan on doing a show on Thursday, I believe, and then the next one would be Monday. And I think maybe that Monday show, I will spend some time, part of it, the Truth to Power segment, really getting into the election and something I've been following a great deal. As I told you, I have a master's degree in public administration, which is in the School of Political Science. The MPA, it's funny, they don't offer it at Temple anymore. It's my understanding that, in fact, the year I got my degree, which was 96, they ended the program, and now you can only get a master's, I think, in public policy, a MPP. But anyway, that said, want to talk a little bit about, before I end with my background, I told you I went to school at Temple, have worked for, I've actually done my own business, had my own business for 5 years, have done some things, worked with Lucian Blackwell, worked for the Mayor's Office of Community Services. I know I'm not supposed to be doing this. Mayor's Office of Community Services under Ed Rendell, worked for the Philadelphia Housing Authority. I've worked for a couple of other companies and done some nonprofit management consulting, a lot of grant writing. So, I have a fair amount of background there. And right now, I'm semi-retired. I work at a public school, help out there with teacher. I do some um, work for a company in Jersey where I do commercial property inspections. But I've been wanting to do this for quite some time. I've written a book. I guess we're going back 13 years. Is it? I wrote a book that's right here. I just happen to have it. It's called "The Myth of Rock and Roll: The Racial Politics of American Popular Music," which I think speaks a little bit to my interest in music. And of course, as someone who came of age in the 70s, I was in college, started college, and ended high school in the early 70s. Almost made a career out of college, partying and having a great time. But when I kind of woke up from the haze and finally finished, the 70s was just a tremendous time for music. It was a tremendous time for black music. I don't think there's anything like it. And when I wrote the book, actually, I just saw Zingo on Facebook, but the sister who did the typesetting and put the book together for me. So why is more than half of it, on the 70s? And of course, many of us who, lived and kind of partied through the 70s are, we're bullish on that. And I told her, well, it was the greatest period of music, and I still believe that. But during the latter part of the 90s and into the 2000s, I really started to get into what was happening in hip hop, and particularly I guess the underground hip hop and music, and there's just so much going on. And part of the reason why with this, I have to do a session on art and music. And indeed, part of why I wrote the book was that I just think that the impact of African American music and black music globally is just downplayed. It's not given the significance and importance that it warrants. And that's what the book was about. And certainly those of you who have listened to the Black Rock and Soul playlist, and again, that's www.blackrocksoul.com, and you can go on that and press the button, and you can get to the playlist, and you'll find a lot of music I put on there that is not commercial. You won't hear it on the radio, except maybe on some college stations and underground stations, if you will. In fact, I'm pretty sure that maybe next month, but certainly one of the first shows, as soon as I get this thing up and running where I can do phone interviews, I plan on having one of the guys who has just been for years and years playing great music and innovative music, and when no one else would. And I'm thinking about Al Knight. I'm going to reach out to him. I don't know how many of you know Al, but he's been doing a program down at Drexel for years and years, and I respect him tremendously, and hope I can get him on either through the phone or maybe he could come up and sit in. But at any rate, it's just so important that people like him, and it's not many, have kept the music alive. And part of why I'm going to do what I'm doing is to bring to the fore and bring awareness to artists, young artists, and others, older folks who just haven't gotten a listen. And just to say to people and to the public, and I've often heard people say, oh,